Hello and welcome back everyone. In today's video we'll look more into the sketch palette and we'll see how you can make different rectangles. So entering the sketch mode, you have an option to create different rectangles. In particular you have 5 options. You could create a corner rectangle by choosing 2 points or 2 corners on the rectangle. You could create a center rectangle by choosing the center of the rectangle and 1 corner, which is the top right corner. You could choose a 3-point corner rectangle where you specify the 3 corners of the rectangle. You could choose a 3-point center rectangle where you specify a center of the rectangle, the right corner, and another option on the top side of the rectangle. Or you could choose to create a parallelogram. Let's start with the first type, which is the corner rectangle. To specify the corner rectangle, you need to first specify the lower left corner of the rectangle and then the top right corner of the rectangle. So as I click on the work area, I can drag my rectangle around and I need to click the top right corner of the rectangle now. Now you can see that there are some other options for the rectangle. For example, you could choose it to be only for construction. And you can see there are some parameters as well. For example, the x and y coordinates of the corners of the rectangle. So all the 4 corners of the rectangle are represented in terms of x and y coordinates right here. Now let's see how you choose the second type of rectangle, which is the center rectangle. The center rectangle requires you to, number 1, as indicated by the small number in the figure, the center of the rectangle, and number 2, the top right corner of the rectangle. So as I click on the work area, I extend the rectangle by the center. And as I click one more time, it extends the rectangle into a rectangle that is defined by the center and the corner. There is another option to make the rectangle from 3 points, which is known as the 3-point corner rectangle. With this option, I first need to click on the bottom left corner of the rectangle. As you can see, I can drag it along by moving my mouse, and I can position the next point, which is the bottom right corner of the rectangle. And then finally I need to place the top right corner of the rectangle by clicking it one more time. There are other options available for this one as well. For example, it could be chosen as a construction rectangle. It could be used as a reference. And there are also options that represent the coordinates of all the corners of the rectangle. The fourth option is a 3-point center rectangle. For this 3-point center rectangle, I first need to indicate the center of the rectangle, followed by the midpoint of the right side of the rectangle, and then the rectangle is completed by defining the top right point of the rectangle. The last and the final option in the rectangle section is the parallelogram. For the parallelogram, you need to give it 3 points. The first one represents the bottom left corner of the parallelogram. The second point represents the bottom right corner of the parallelogram. And finally, the last point represents the top right corner of the parallelogram. Using these options, you could create rectangles in your sketches or parallelograms as required by some features like the boss extrude. Thank you so much, everyone. In the next video, we'll learn about the options in the circles section.